Let me take you back real quick. Imagine walking into your favorite game store back in 2004. You're taking a gander, knowing damn well your mama ain't gonna buy you shit, and then you see it. Wow, look at that beautiful cover. I'm gonna argue this is one of the greatest covers of all time. It just makes me want to play it. I want to know what's inside of it. Now, are my feelings accompanied by years of nostalgia? Sure, yeah, but I mean, look at it. It's still beautiful. Also, at this point, there were 2 NBA Streets out, and as kids, we always thought, imagine if they do other sports. And the one we thought would be the toughest for them to do was the one they released, a street football game. Emphasis on the street, where you play as real NFL players dressed in the heights of the fashion of the time, doing a version of what you're doing outside. Oh man, remember Outside? I have a ton of nostalgia for this series, so I think it's time for me to take a look back at the NFL Street series. NFL Street was released in 2004, and it's a 7-on-7 football game with street rules, really taking the torch from the classic Blitz series, but adding its own twist. There are no penalties, no injuries, no punts or field goals, and has a similar down system to Blitz. You have 1st and 30, but the markers don't really move, so it can be 1st and 5 on the next play depending on how far up the field you go. But the main thing about this series, it's all about style. Of course, you can perform your normal football moves, but by holding down the trigger, you perform a stylized version of that move. A crazy no-look pass, a catch between the legs, crazy hurdles or spin or juke. It felt really stylish and cool. The moves they would do were really ridiculous, but at the same time, kind of felt possible. Like you could do them and had us all trying them outside in our own pickup games. You get style points depending on what you do, similar to the NBA Street games, and you start to fill up your good old game breaker meter. Where the players basically have the Mario Star on. They're faster, stronger, more accurate, tougher to get down, easier to intercept on defense. They force fumbles, and this whole power-up lasts the whole drive. I really like using it on defense because I like to take the ball away. I'm pretty confident in my offense, so give me the ball. You can also offset each other's game breaker, which is kind of a bummer. When you score, touchdowns are worth 6 points. If you call a run play for the conversion, it's 1 point. If you throw it, it's 2. The game just lends itself to be so wild and chaotic in the best way. While celebrating and racking up their points, you're more susceptible to fumbles. It also matters who hits you and how. There's a power tackle that takes a little bit of a practice to kind of gauge the aiming on, and the stats are really felt here. They matter. If the guy is speedy, he feels very fast. If he sucks at passing, well, then he sucks at passing. Catching matters, of course. All the stats feel very important. Like if a lineman picks up a fumble and starts to run with it, he's most likely to fumble because he has no run power. Everything simply makes sense. You get a playbook that is pretty decent. Yeah, it's a little bit small, but there's actually a play for every occasion and even very fun trick plays. Pitching the ball is a huge thing and it's super fun. Can be risky, but it also can reward you very well. Pitching it out of a tackle to somebody who's on the open field just feels very satisfying when pulled off. And everything I mentioned combined together just brings a bunch of chaos and unpredictability to the game, and it just happens so fast. I don't think I captured this crazy play, but I will break it down for you. This is what happened to me one time. I handed off, and I was on my way to score, but I fumbled, so they recovered it. I chased their asses down all the way to my goal line where they fumbled, then I recovered it and ran it all the way back for 6. It was insane. I don't know why my dumb ass didn't capture it, but I swear it happened. I love the chunky designs of the characters, and the character models actually still look like the players. After some awesome plays, there's a celebration cutscene with awesome dialogue.
Damn, baby! What?
The sound of the field is also great. The crunch of the tackle, the contact just sounds so hefty. There's so much chatter during the game. All they do is just yell at each other, but it's pretty elite. There's a total of 4 game modes. You have a quick game where you pick a whole team and you play against another team, and the scoring system can be touchdowns and points or style points. What we like to play is the pickup game. It's a playground draft. You pick players for your team. At first you get 40 random players to choose from. Sometimes legends are mixed in there. And you go back and forth drafting your team, then you hit the field. For Madden players, we all know Mike Vick is a straight up cheat code in Madden 04, right? Well, I think he's also one in here. He's just super fun to play as. He's super fast, he can run away from anybody, he can buy extra time for his wide receivers, he throws dots, and if no one's open, you can just take off and run away from everybody. He is definitely my favorite player to use. Then you also have NFL Challenge. This is a solo mode. It's super fun. You create your team, and I do mean create your team. You pick your logo, you create each player from scratch. You start with a set amount of skill points to go around the team. So you have to kind of be strategic, at least a little bit, as to who to emphasize more of the upgrades. I'm selfish, so I always beef up my quarterback because I want him to be pretty much like Michael Vick. So in the challenge mode, you do challenges like score first, or try to stop another team with a game breaker on, play game to 14 without letting the other team score. Just a ton of different very fun and even hard challenges at times. There are different difficulties and they reward you accordingly, giving you more skill points or gear or even unlock fields to play on. You have these tokens to spend on different challenges, so you don't get to actually do them all. And the most expensive of the challenges is playing a team to 24 on mad difficulty. If you manage to beat them, you get to add a player from that team to your squad. That's my main reason why I could just go ham on my quarterback, because most of the team ends up getting replaced by my favorite NFL players anyway. But I also kind of need them to be good to help me beat the team. So there's definitely some fun decisions to be made. It's very fun for me to take a 0 team and just go on and beating everybody and slowly upgrading the team. Also in the NFL Challenge, you have the NFL Ladder, where you take on a whole division, one team at a time. Then you face the all-stars of the division, and you unlock the next division to play. This mode is a bit harder in the beginning because your team sucks. So you need to head back to the challenges, try to beef them up a little bit, get more players, upgrade some of the stats just to be able to compete. Once you beat all the divisions, then you get to take on the legends. Once you beat them, you get to pick one legend to add to your team, and you also unlock all players, including the legends, so now you can pick whoever you want for the pickup games. They don't have to be 40 random dudes anymore. It could be all of them. There's definitely some nostalgia in the rosters for me as an NFL fan. It was a great time in the NFL as well. You have Randy Moss with the Vikings. You have Bronco Shannon Sharp. That crazy Tampa Bay defense with Rice, Sapp, Lynch, and Barber. Dante Culpepper, Donovan McNabb, Ray Lewis. It's just legends in the making left and right. And it's really fun to play as a lot of them. And seeing them in these versions of players all cartoony and chunky is really, really great, especially with their street clothes. And they really look like the players. Style is a real emphasis, not only from the moves on the field, but also fashion-wise. Having a ton of choices for customization is great, and you unlock even more, but you gotta remember, this was in the heyday of the baggy pants, do-rag, and sports jersey with some bling on. And all this is also represented through the music. You got some awesome Nas and Korn collabs, some Nas with Lil Jon, 3 6 Mafia, Executioners, and Be Real. I love the basic EA field. That's probably my favorite field throughout the whole series. I think because of how wide it is. Some have a little bit different dimensions. I don't know if the rest of them do. I for sure know that the EA field is way wider than the rest of them, but the maps are really cool, except for the warehouse in this one. That could suck a fat one because it's basically impossible to throw a long ball. It hits the roof, which is so stupid. Yeah, it's chaotic because someone could catch it on the bounce, but it's also infuriating when you see your wide receiver running up the field wide open. It's wild how much nostalgia I have for this game. It's still very much playable today. The game itself is super wild, fun, and what's even more wild that in the same calendar year, they released a sequel in Street 2 with a very special guest. In late December 2004, Street 2 was released, and who's there to greet us? Our old pal Alvin Nathaniel Joyner. You may know him as X to the Z Exhibit.
No, you can't be like me, but you can damn sure try.
Coming off his latest MTV sensation Pimp My Ride, Exhibit is not only featured in the game, he's also on the cover and he's basically our host. He walks you through the tutorial and even has his own team, which is pretty close to the players I end up picking up anyways. His voiceover is really good, but listening to Exhibit telling you how to play just adds to the cool factor.
Stupid.
After completing the tutorial, you unlock his team. And if you have a save file from the first game, you get an extra 25,000 credits. I love that. You remember when games used to give you stuff for free just for being loyal? Yeah, that's really the case now. Street 2 very much plays the same as the first game, with the exception of some upgrades. The first major difference, I feel like they're 10% less cartoony. They have a more realistic body shape, and in my opinion, that's a little bit of an L. I really enjoy the cartooniness to it. The second update is the wall mechanic. This is actually something that is a factor in the game and matters. You can use them to juke, jump off for a catch, run up them and dive, and even my favorite, make throws off of them. Having the walls in play just adds a whole other dimension to the game. I feel like balls could even be uncatchable to the defender if I'm running up the wall to get it. They also have these hot spots, which I eventually became obsessed with, just to try to get them all. You have to run on them, and when you do, you can unlock players sometimes or get an extra style points or some sort of collectibles. Some moves obviously repeat themselves, but they also added a ton, especially some of the wall stuff. But they removed the celebrations after certain plays. I kind of miss that. Also, the point conversion is by distance now. This is way better because it doesn't only limit you to run or pass play. Instead, if you choose to take it from 5 yards out, it's 1 point. And if you choose to take it by 10, it's 2. And the biggest addition probably was to the game breaker. Having one works the exact same way, but you can also store it and fill up 2 of them. And when you do, you go into an animation that basically is giving you the ball in open space. So on defense, you will obviously take the ball away. And on offense, you'll burn everyone in a cool animation and you can run it in with its full game breaker power on display. I always ended up using it on defense unless I had like 1 TD more to go to reach the points. If not, I just like taking the ball away. You pretty much have the same playbook, maybe a couple extra plays added. And like in the first game, it feels very responsive. It does not feel scripted at all like some football games feel today. It's like the ball goes where it goes and what happens, happens. I think that's what I really love about the series. It's just super fun and unpredictable, man. And what I really loved with this brand new mode, Own the City. Here you create your character. I made myself this time. Skills wise, you can probably guess who I was trying to emulate. A fast quarterback with an accurate arm. But looks wise, I was trying to go for like a white 50 Cent, but ended up looking like Bad Bunny. I didn't notice until now. That's very depressing. Anyway, you play pickup games versus randomly generated dudes who are all pretty much bums. They suck. I'm the best. But then when you win, you get to recruit one of them to add to your team. I really wish there was some sort of easy way to compare dudes I already have with potential new upgrades to my team, because you play so many of these pickup games that you're constantly changing your team, so I don't know everyone's stats by heart. So a quick button press to compare what I have versus potential upgrades would have really helped. There are also these street events. These are mini games that are added to the series. You have Crush the Carrier, where you have to tackle the guy with the ball while he's racking up style points. The player with the most style points wins. Jump Ball Battle, where you have to catch the most balls. The street ball is worth more. And Open Field. These are a simple 1v1 where you have to score and defend, and whoever has the most points wins. By completing these, you get dev points to boost the team, or in my case, boost myself because I'm the best. I boost all the stats, even block. I don't care if I'm a quarterback. There are also 2-minute challenges where you have 4v4 with no quarterback running, and you will get awarded points by intercepting the ball and causing a turnover. So once you beat all the cities, you take on Alvin's team. Pimp this, homie! And after that, your team is entered into a tournament versus the entire NFL. And once you beat that, you can not only import your player into the very next mode, but you can also import him into Madden 2006. That would have been really cool. I didn't test it out, but I should have. That's my bad. I don't even know if I can now. But I did put him into the next mode, which is the NFL Challenge, where you have 150 days to build up your very own team. Each challenge costs a certain amount of days, and these are sort of similar to the first ones. First team to score a certain amount of style points, a game to 4 team not letting them score, stuff like that. Very similar to the first game. And also you're earning dev points along the way. When you're down to 5 days left, you're enter again into a tournament versus the NFL, where the final round is you versus the Legends. And if you win, you unlock that team. I did feel like the challenges are better in Uno because they don't repeat. Here, a lot of them repeat themselves. And the fun factor of the challenges in the first one was simply just better, I think. But the modes are not done. Another mode is NFL Gauntlet, where you take Exhibit's team versus the whole NFL. So I will say that difficulty-wise, the first game is harder. There are individual challenges in this one that feel kind of impossible, like pitch the ball 4 times in the same play. That was hell to do, but I eventually did it. But overall, the difficulty as a whole of the second game is much easier, very much because you start with the ball most of the time, so the math just pans out for you. But there's also so much you can do in solo for this one, and I really enjoy the zero to hero build up and that sort of stuff. Like I mentioned, it's always so great to slowly build something. It's very rewarding gameplay, of course, because you can see your progress on screen. And of course, all the multiplayer stuff is back, your quick game and your pickup game. It's fun. It's very fun to look back at the NFL at certain times. These are like opening up time capsules of the league. This roster was also very fun and very good too. Again, the music is great. They added way more songs this time. There's some more sprinkle of rock, more hip hop in there, and of course, our boy Alvin has a song, which is great. The field selection are probably the best in the series, not only because they basically upgraded EA Field, which I love, but the variety in there is fun. I think that Street 2 is the best in the series because they built upon the foundations the first game established. They tweaked stuff for the better, and I mean, it released the same calendar year, so they had to use it as a base. But it just feels bigger and better than the first game, wilder animations, the moves on the field are crazy, and even more customization options. You can recreate your team if you really want to. Shout out to my Pingus. So it's way more than like a DLC version of the game. It elevated the franchise to new heights in my opinion. So from NFL Street 2, we had to wait for 2 whole years for the third game in the series. But before we continue, if you could subscribe to the channel and drop a like to the video, that'd be cool. I mean, you already watched 75% of the video. That means you must like it. Come on, subscribe. I'm alright. If you don't think I'm alright, I do think I can be better, and I can be better with your help. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much. So from the best in the series, I think we're going to go to the worst in the series. NFL Street 3 released towards the end of 2006, and it was actually a Sony exclusive, only releasing for the PS2 and PSP. It features the artist formerly known as Chad Johnson, known today as Chad Ochocinco, on the cover. But also, Clint Portis is kind of there too as your host in the tutorials. So after Chad is done yelling at you in the tutorial,
No. Throw a bullet past the square.
you dropped the fool. What are you yelling at me for? Just catch it. Quit trying to be fancy, man.
Good job.
Well, after that, you head into the game. Now, while I don't think NFL Street 3 is a horrible game, it's definitely playable. There's some fun to be had there. It's definitely the worst in the series. There were changes made, some for the better and most of them for the worst. Starting out with the button layout. In the other 2 games, in the PS2 for example, you could use the X for your stiff arm and square for your dives. In 3, because you can now jump, jumping is now X and stiff arm is square. So a lot of the times I'm wanting to dive into the end zone for some extra points, but I end up putting out my arm for a goofy stiff arm, but no one's there, so I just end up losing my style points. There are these floating things on the map, and these are your collectibles. You get new balls, which that's cool, being able to change the ball. You also get new artwork, and even get some stat boosts for a few drives in the game. Okay, oh that's fine. But this also changes your wall runs. Before, it was all one smooth animation. Now, you have to jump on the wall, push up to run, and it also matters how high up on the wall you get and the angle, because you can stick onto it kind of like Spider-Man and do a backflip or something, which in theory sounds cool, but here looks kind of clunky, simply because it's not done in one smooth animation. You can also jump on crap that's on the field, and this just felt overly complicated and never really felt like it worked right. It really feels like the game was trying to make this jumping the thing, but it's just kind of lame. So yeah, okay, there's a bunch of collectibles on the field that have to jump like I'm trying to collect Skate and Tony Hawk. Okay, that's meh, not good. Another change is you can call audibles and try to guess plays on defense. I didn't really use that much. Didn't feel like I had to. You can also switch over to control the wide receiver before the snap and have the computer throw it to you. And it sounds good, but actually in real-time games, I never did it. Game breakers are different as well. It's kind of like how specials work in WWE games, where each game breaker works more for an individual move. So you can do game breaker passes, jukes, or spins. And by doing so, you create this giant get the out of my way wave, pushing everyone around you. And on defense, you have lock-on tackles, where the player does this Raiden type move towards the ball carrier. Also, there are lock-on interceptions where the player literally just teleports to the ball. So there's really no limits to how many game breakers you can hold on to. I Really did kind of miss the theatrics of the second game, mostly because it's automatic. Here, not every game-breaking tackle leads to a fumble, so it isn't guaranteed, which I'm actually not that mad at because that adds to some of the predictability I enjoy. And if you're too far from the receiver, you won't teleport to the ball sometimes. And in this particular clip, we both had the game breaker and we canceled each other out, but it was just done in a weird way. It didn't feel right or satisfying at all. The Sellies are back, but I feel like the character models are 20% smaller than the second game, so they're less beefy, so we're moving away even farther from the cartoony nature visuals that I love, so that's a little bit of an L. A bigger L is that there are no pump fake. I guess because of the stupid jumping, so they kind of ran out of buttons? I don't know, but you can't pump fake fools, which feels pretty vital to fake out defenders, especially in hitch and go routes. The overall speed of the game feels very slow to me as well compared to the other ones. I don't know, it's like they added too much water to the already perfect formula of NFL Street, so the vibe and nostalgia isn't quite there, even from the musical standpoint. Sound effects are still there. There's some weather effects, slipping on ice, sometimes it's raining, that's pretty cool. Difficulty wise, I felt it to be easier than the first game, but harder than the second game. So this one had a fairly good balance, I feel like. One change I did like, even though it can be broken at times, is the throw off. Yeah, it's a bit goofy, but at least it's closer to real football compared to whatever the hell they're doing today.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
I say it's broken because it can be kind of easy to return on them, but it also goes both ways. I also end up cracking them coming down covering it. I got so many fumbles off the throw off. So yeah, it's a good idea, but I just felt like I needed some more tweaking to make it more balanced. They also brought back the same street events, but they added a few scoring types in the game. You got your standard, which is by touchdowns. You got bank, which is by style points. You have a defensive score where play is normal, but you actually get awarded defensive points, like stopping them behind the line is 1 point, getting an interception is 5 extra points. And that one can be fun because you can rack up the score pretty high. Playbook elimination kind of sucks. Both teams starts with the same amount of plays, and every play that fails due to an incompletion or being stopped behind the line gets that play taken away. This one's kind of annoying because it could take a long time. Yards is whoever gains more yards win. If you run for the yards, you get double those points. And if you stop them behind the line of scrimmage, they get doubled as well, but they get taken away from them. The first team to a set amount of yards wins. There's also a time attack where you have a minute to score on your drive, and the time you have left on the clock are the points you get. And that one's okay. So these were added as your game types, which are fine, but they also took away some of the game modes. You got your classics, your quick game, and your pickup game, but the big single player mode is Respect the Street, which is the same as before. You build your team from scratch, defeating mixed teams of bums and NFL guys, and you play them in these assortment of modes I just mentioned. You also unlock drills, which are the streets events basically that I mentioned, and depending on how well you do, you get dev points to boost your team, or most likely myself. At the beginning, these are kind of tough because you got bums on your team facing NFL players, so it's hard to compete against them in the challenges because they're just super faster than you or stronger or whatever you need to do, they're going to do it better than you. There is a lot of gear, but a lot of it is locked and you must buy it. Not a whole lot of it seems inspired or worth the time for me. The logos are cool, they're added way more, and of course, I was still able to make my pinguinos. Once you beat all the challenges from that state, you get to pick a player from the teams you were playing against, but you don't know what's going to be available to you, so it's hard to plan out who and what to pick. If you lose or quit, you lose respect points. I usually lose respect for myself anyway when I overeat like a fat pig, so I was used to it, so whatever. But you earn respect with the wins. Once you get to a certain point with so many respect points, you then unlock the ability to add your own rules and pick your own type of game, which is okay because you want to change out the annoying ones like the playbook elimination one, but then it's also like, well, then what's the point? I'm just playing the same shit over and over again. So there are no actual challenges like before, like first to score 14 without letting the other one score or stopping them on a game breaker. None of that. There's no extra flair. And again, these are fine, but they overuse them. There's no creative scenarios to play in. It's just the same modes over and over and over again. You beat everybody, you get to the end, you play the Legends team, y tan tan, it's over. It just feels very, very stale. Sometimes they didn't even change the players. It's the same dude on different teams. Like, what's up with that? And even from a roster standpoint, the players that are available are like weird. It was like done in a weird time in the NFL where most teams had backup QBs as their starters. You got your Brad Johnsons, your John Kidnas, your Aaron Brooks. Now, these are good players, but they're not necessarily fun to play as, maybe. Yeah, Mike Vick is still there, but the rest just feel like a weird era. I'm talking Culpepper in Miami, Randy Moss and the Raiders. The Packers have 2 quarterbacks in Favre and Rodgers. The Dallas Cowboys had Drew Bledsoe. Rivers, Eli, and Riggleberger are only 2 years in, so it's like the best players from the last game are a little bit past their prime now, and the next gen that's coming along is quite not there yet. So that's what I mean by a weird moment in NFL. Now, while like I said, I don't think the third game is a horrible game, it's definitely the worst out of the series. Maybe Tour could be worse. I haven't played that. I'm saving that for a future video. Let me know if I should. But 3 just feels super repetitive. The others found a way to keep it fresh. I feel like the vibe just was not there. They added too much water to the formula, like I said, and it was definitely kind of a downgrade, especially from 2. The NFL Street Series was part of one of the greatest runs a publisher can have. The EA Sports big label is missed by millions today because of what they brought to the table. They took risks and made every decision with fun as their main goal. That's why these games are timeless in their gameplay. The games aren't difficult to just pick up and play today. It encapsulates that time. It takes me back to 2004 every time I play it.
2004, for God's sake!
And that feeling of nostalgia always rushes over me, reminding me of a simpler time. A time where games were made to have fun. Speaking of fun, let's have some fun in the comments. Let's see if you guys can guess my favorite NFL team. I'm a diehard of this team, so the first one to guess it gets their comment pinned. Also, let me know your favorite football team if you have one. I also plan on doing a similar video for the NBA streets, so if you would like that, let me know by dropping a like. And if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and remember to always and forever, you do you.
Yeah, good job. Good job, dog. Yeah.